भासते स्वयं लिख्यते कथम्। हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं मात्रम् अहम् इति साक्षात् आत्मरूपेण भाति। हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वता मज्जता पवनचलनरूपा आत्मनिष्ठो भवतु। देहं मृण्मयं जडात्मकम् अहं बुद्धिर्न तस्यास्त्यतु नाहं तत्तत भावशुक्तिसमये सिद्धात्मसद्भाव कोऽहं भावयुतः कुतो रघिय दृष्टात्मनिष्टात्मना सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं। सोऽहं स्फूर्तितया अरुणाचल शिवः पूर्णो विभाति स्वयं। Namo Ramana. In this, the Thursday Satsang from Ramanacentre Center for Learning, it has been our practice to select two verses from the work Guruvachaka Kovai by Muruganar Swamigal. The work, like Talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi, is a collection of Bhagavan's teachings in verse form. We are reading from the translation by Robert Butler, T.V. Venkata Subramanian, and David Godman. Two verses are selected for us randomly by Revati, and the verses are read out. Each verse reading is followed by a short meditation on its meaning, and that is followed by a practice of Atma Vicharam for 10 minutes. After these two segments of verse reading, meditation on meaning, and practice of self-enquiry are completed, today there will be summing up remarks by Venkatesh Deshpande, and that shall be followed by the offering of Sri Ramana Stotram. The chanting will be by Vaibhavji and Pratnama online. And Puja team is still away. It's away in the US partly. So we'll be offering ourselves in self-enquiry when the chanting is going on by inquiring who is the listener. Who is the listener? And the rest of us, other than Vaibhavji and Pratnama, will have the opportunity to attend to who is the listener. We begin the satsang with the first verse selected for us, 1210. This is in the third segment of the book. The third segment is experience of the truth or anubhava. The first segment being the investigation into truth. The second segment being meditation on the truth. The third segment is experience of the truth. These three segments are after the prefatory, the introductory verses. This verse 1210, we find in the subsegment Para Bhakti, supreme transcending devotion. Para, apara is limited. Para is limitless, transcending. Bhakti, supreme devotion. 1210 on supreme devotion. Only those fortunate ones who live depending upon the self, taking it to be their supreme and eternal refuge, will attain the self, their truth. For all others, that liberation, the endless supreme abode, Param Dhama of grace, is impossible to attain by any means whatsoever. Only this segment is about Parabhakti. Only those fortunate ones who live depending upon the self, taking it to be their supreme and eternal refuge, will attain the self, their truth. For all others, that liberation, the endless supreme abode, the Parandama of grace, is impossible to attain by any means whatsoever. So, supreme bhakti has to be totally on the self. That is, Bhagavan says in Upadesha Saram, Upadesha Undiyar, Aniya Bhavatil Avan Ahamahum Ananiya Bhavame Undipara Anaithilum Uttamam Undipara Bhava Bhalatinal Bhavanatita Sadbhavatil Iruttale Undipara Parabhakti Tattvam Undipara. What is Parabhakti? Bhagavan points out in Upadesha Undiyar. Now, when I am addressing an audience, or when I am listening to a talk, or when I meditate on a goal, let's say PhD, or I meditate on an object as the form of God, then there is this Anya Bhava. The Anya Bhava means the goal that I am seeking is apart from me. The goal may be huge, all-encompassing, but I begin the meditation by taking that my ego or the relative self is apart from the goal. So that is called as Aniya Bhavam. Now, in the Aham, in the self of the Supreme, in the self of the Ishvara, will there be Anya Bhava? That means the whole creation is his body, let us take. How we have permeated the body We have permeated the body to identify with it. Any part of the body, till the nail is cut off and is on the ground, we call that nail also as ourselves only. Though it is projection out of the skin for a few millimeters, we still call it as ourselves because our consciousness permeates that. Similarly, the consciousness of the Ishvara permeates the whole creation. Pindam meviya nadane, Brahmandam meviya nadanai. There is this statement in Ramana Sadguru, part of Ramana Stuti Panchakam, where when you identify with the self of all, you understand that it is that same self of all which permeates the body as well as the whole creation. When it permeates the whole creation, the Anya Bhava goes away. That self will not have I and another. Avan ahamahum ananya bhava me undipara. So Supreme cannot have anya bhava. So though that is a power, though that is an energy, though the Ishvara Shakti is an energy, it does not have anya bhava. So it is a self-attentive energy. Tannai andri anniyam ondrum ariya. About the jnanis, Bhagavan says, they don't know anything other than the oneself, their self. That self-attentive power is beyond all dualities and triads. That the dualities like, dislike, cause, effect, and the triads like seer, seeing, seen. The self-attentive I is beyond all that. And here, in this verse, the verse says, only those fortunate ones who live depending upon that self, taking it as their supreme and eternal refuge. How should we live our life where this world seems to have success, failure, happiness, sorrow? All these dualities are there. How to live in such a world? Live holding the self, the Ananya Bhakti, the Ananya Bhava. That is, when you are met with success, don't get carried away that how intelligently you have cornered that success for yourself. But let it just come and go in your self-attention. Always be attentive for whom is this success. Then that self-attention can continue even in so-called failures. Because really, is there a real success and failure out there? One of the deep anguishes of failure that I have faced for a long period of time turned to be the greatest benefit that I could have ever received, because it gave me ekagrata, it gave me focus for a long period of time. It gave me a focus which I might not have otherwise had. I can't say with assurance I would not have had, because the whole area of the objective space is always doubtable, is always subject to doubt from intellect. Whereas the self-attention is beyond the intellect. There can be no doubt in this living of self-attentive living. So not only is it free of the dualities of happiness and sorrow, like and dislike, pleasure and pain, it is also free of the intellect, which swings between determination or assuredness and doubt. The intellect is always swinging between these. Is this person really my help? Is this person going to go away at the last moment? So Bhagavan, from the beginning, he would say, don't rely on this form that is giving you this instruction or giving you this pointer. I am within you as the self, he would say. I am existing within you as the self. Hold it. So even as the Guru on the outside, he is self-effacing. The teachings themselves are self-effacing. They don't say, remember us. The teachings don't say, hold us. Remember these shlokas by heart. No. The verse is saying, hold yourself. Even if memory of that shloka comes and you want to quote it and feel good about it, you ask, for whom is this thought? And hold the self. And what happens to the ones who live like that? You have had immense success in a meeting, everything has gone in your way, or tremendous failure. Nothing has transpired, not even an inch of movement forward for days on in something. But that's not what we are holding. That is Anya Bhava. Our life is lived holding the self. For whom is this? We are totally free of or detached from the happenings that come and go as success and failure, as pleasure and pain, and all those dualities and triads. What happens to those who live this kind of parabhakti, that there is nothing other than the self of the selves? For them, the attainment of the self or that self-realization is assured, says the verse. For all others who are getting carried away in the area of the non-self, the area of knowledge, that you know clearly that you are a very learned person, you are well respected, you are safe financially, and from these we take security. Of course, there appears to be security from those things, that well-earned merit and well-earned finances. Of course, they have given us the strength of tapas. But right now, having come to this parabhakti, that God is the limitless self who cannot be brought under the area of I know God. I know Him because He is the Adhara. The God is the Adhara of the very I thought. So, the best way to live is to hold the source of the I thought and let the happenings come and go. Then the I will rise and shine. Ahaminasha Baji, the relative one who is looking at the life outside, will himself be dismantled or herself be dismantled. There is no him or her in that. And when that ego is dismantled, aham taya spurati hurut swayam parama purna sat. The fullness of the self will rise and shine self-luminously, not lit by another light. It will shine self-luminously as I. For the rest, the verse says that Parandhamasthiti, the ultimate abode of the I, is not attainable by whatever means whatsoever. That all the means have to be crossed in self-attention. That you cannot hold on to any means. If you are still holding on to any means, you are not in the Parandhama Sthiti, in the ultimate supreme abode of the self, says the verse. And let's sit in practice of Atma Vicharam, which is Parabhakti. Atma Vicharam is the Parabhakti, which was mentioned in Upadesha Saram. Bhava Balattinal Bhavanatita Sadbhavatil Iruttale Undipara Parabhakti Tattvam Undipara. We are using the Bhavabala. We are now gathering the Bhavabala, the strength of thought. But the strength of thought is not allowed to be dissipated by following other thoughts. That energy is conserved. Whenever other thoughts arise, we ask, for whom is this thought? Who am I? So, Bhavana Tita, we are going to the source of all thoughts. Let go of the other thoughts, go to the source of the I thought. We are going to the source of all thoughts. Bhavana Tita Sadbhavatil. Though the thought has been discarded, the I thought has been stilled, are you not existing? That is called as Sadbhava. Sadbhava means I am that I am, but without any kind of support, any kind of support of thought or other objects. My existence is transcending all kinds of supports and limitations in self-inquiry. Let's sit in Atma Ucharan for the next 10 minutes. Ujjwalji, you can help us out. Thank you.
Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya.
Namo Ramana. We continue the satsang by taking up the second verse selected for us, verse number 81. This is in the first segment, Investigation into Truth. 81, Conduct in the World. The subheading is Conduct in the World. 81. Reach the heart by clearly knowing your true nature and abide there permanently as that unattached supreme self without slipping from the state of knowledge. Reach the heart by clearly knowing your true nature and abide there permanently as the unattached supreme self without slipping from that state of knowledge. Then act according to the human role you have assumed, outwardly behaving as if, like all others in the world, you are experiencing joy and misery. Then act according to the human role you have assumed, outwardly behaving as if, like all others in the world, you are experiencing joy and misery. Muruganar. Sage Vasishta also gave similar advice to Sri Rama. This advice, which originally appeared in Yoga Vasishta, was translated into the following Tamil verses by Bhagavan. This is a note by the authors. Having investigated, this is the Upadesha of Sage Vasishta to Rama. Having investigated the various states of being and seizing firmly by the mind that state of supreme reality, play your part, O hero, ever in the world. You have known the truth which is at the heart of all kinds of appearances. Without ever turning away from that reality, play in the world, O hero, as if in love with it. Seeming to have enthusiasm and delight, seeming to have excitement and aversion, seeming to exercise initiative and perseverance, and yet without attachment, play, O hero, in the world. Released from all bonds of attachment and with equanimity of mind, acting outwardly in all situations, in accordance with the part you have assumed, play as you please, O hero, in the world. So, the first instruction is to reach the heart by clearly knowing your true nature. Find out your true nature. In self-enquiry, you will reach the heart, which is beyond the reach of thoughts. So, not only should you reach the heart, abide there permanently. How to abide there permanently? If you still have impulses towards the world, if you are pushed by impulses, so the abiding in that source, the heart, the thought-free state, will require that you eliminate all the vasanas, the impulses, which push you towards the relative existence. Be as the unattached supreme self. When you abide as the unattached supreme self, the supreme self is self-luminous. We saw it does not depend on anything. It does not need the support of anything. It is self-luminous self. And be without slipping from that knowledge. So that should become natural. As Bhagavan says, the spurana, the I, after the enlightenment experience, was going on naturally within him. That even when his body was speaking, even when his body was doing some activity like vegetable cutting or writing, the spurana never went away and was present like the Shruti note in a musical concert. Somebody is playing a music, an alap in a particular raga which has various notes, but the Shruti goes on unchanged as the underlying current. Similarly, all this is the self, that knowledge never slips from the one who is naturally abiding in that. Then act according to the human role you have assumed. Outwardly behaving as if, like others in the world, you are experiencing joy and misery. So, knowing fully well that the relative knowledge which is required for acting in the world, which requires memory, which requires remembering the past, cannot impinge on this Purana that is going on always in the present. It is completely occupying the present, is the bringing together of the two states which appear to be apart as waking, the consciousness of waking and the freedom from objects of deep sleep are brought together in this self-attentive spurana, the I. So the waking and state and deep sleep state, the difference is gone in this Purana. So that is our underlying reality in the present. With that, you can play the role as you please. This was read out in the hall once. When Professor K. Swaminathan sir, the Yoga Vasishtam verse was read out, Professor Swaminathan sir asked to his friends in the group that Rama is such a self-realized being, is an avatar. Why did he need the teaching as to how to act in the world, being awakened to the self-realization? Why did he need this instruction? And that person to whom Swaminathan sir was talking to promptly came to Bhagavan and asked him that Swaminathan sir is telling like this, why did such a realized being, an avatara, need this Upadesha from Vasishta? And Bhagavan says, for whom is this doubt? Who had this doubt that whether Rama needed this instruction or not? Then that gentleman said, this Swaminathan only had that doubt. Then Bhagavan says, this Upadesham is for him. Whether Rama needed it or not is not the question. The Upadesham is for the one who needs it now and has the doubt how to live in this world of requiring the past, having to be related in the knower knowing known and live in dualities of happiness and misery. How to relate to it? Abide in the self. Let that become your nature. Then the role that is to be played out can be played out in the presence of that infinite. The finite activities are included and transcended by the infinite. What did we see? The Ishvara's Aham, it covers the whole creation. So the I, it includes all finitude and it transcends that. It goes beyond. All finite activities are taking place in the meditation of self-attention. So self-attention is the current in which all these activities are going on. If all are acting in that current, how can you alone act somewhere else? So it is in that current, in that Ganges, that all these fish are swimming. In fact, there is no fish. There is only the Ganges of self-attention. Live in that, then the activities can go on automatically. That statement is given by the Guru. That statement is also not required in self-attention. That is the living which cannot be explained in words, but it can be directly experienced. That whatever has been done is also now absorbed in self-attention. So it's a way of living well beyond the ways of expression to abide in the self. But the best expression we can get from Vasishta and from this verse is that abide in that self which has consumed all finitude and play the role you have to play is the verse. Let's practice the sadhana to be done. That find out your truth, abide in the heart, be the self-independent of all attachments. Let's practice Atmacharam for the next 10 minutes. Juji will trouble you again.
नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
Namo Ramana. May I request Venkatesh ji to give us the summing up remarks? Namo Ramana, sir.
Namo Ramana. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurur Sakshat Parabrahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jnanamulam Gurur Murtihi, Pujamulam Gurur Padam, Mantramulam Vakyam, Mokshamulam Gurur Kripaha, Mokshamulam Gurur Kripaha. Namo Ramana. Two very good verses this evening, and the first verse, talks about surrender. Now let's look at very simple examples. Now let's look at our lives itself. Now we go to sleep every night. Now imagine we go to sleep every night, and do we remember that breathing goes on automatically? Now breathing goes on automatically. That is a sort of total surrender. Imagine if you are an asthmatic, okay, and you cannot breathe. Now, what happens? You've got to think about breathing. How do I breathe at night to stay alive? But most of us, just breathe automatically. It's a type of surrender which we do not understand as devotees. But when we start looking at more subtle things, like we put the food into our mouth, food goes digested, comes out the next day morning. How does it happen? Have you ever thought about it? That's a type of surrender. You get onto a plane and the pilot, you actually surrender to the pilot and the plane and the airline. Why? Because you know he's going to take you across. Imagine if the pilot says, "Ladies and gentlemen, I will try and see if I can take you to the other place." Everybody will get down from that plane. Why? Surrender is not there. Total surrender is not there. So similarly, important thing that Bhagavan is trying to say, like look at a beggar on the street. You just see him lying down on the street. He does not care about anything. He doesn't know where his next meal is coming, but he's so happy. Or a monkey. Look at a monkey, great sadhu he is. He does not know where his next meal is going to come. But he's very happy, holds on to the child, plays with his other friends and all. Why? Because total surrender. These are things that we need to inculcate. The second thing is the beautiful example of surrendering to being in the self. The example I regularly give, the example of a mother who's given birth to a child. It's a few months old. The child is in the other room, but the mother is in the kitchen. She's cooking food. Where is her mind? Her mind is on the child. Mind is on the child, but her hands are very hands. Hands are cooking that perfect dish. She's so much in joy because of the child. She's cooking. Her hands are in cooking that lovely dish. How is it possible? The mind is needed for the hands and legs to move. No, it's not needed. So the trick about sadhana, the trick about living is being established in the self. When you're established in the self, even if anybody tries to tell the mother, "Come on, let's go out. Let's go out for a picnic." No, my child is there. She will never leave her child. The thought of a child will never go out. Why? Because she's established in the child. So Bhagavan is trying to tell us the same thing. Be established in the self. Don't be scared. You think that you will lose your mind. How will the things go on? It will go on automatically. It will go on better than you actually think with this limited mind. So when you're totally surrendered to Bhagavan and established in the self, you will never lose your mind. 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 You will never Everything will go on perfectly well as per Bhagavan's will. Om Namo Bhagavate Sri Ramanaya. Namo Ramana. Thank you.
Namo Ramana, sir. Thank you so much. May I
Arunachala.
request Arunachal. May I request Vaibhavji and Pratnama to do the Ashtotram chanting for us? Are they available today?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Okay. The rest of us can do self-attention by asking who is the listener.
Namo Ramana. Bharatvaja Vishwanatha Virachitam Sri Ramanashtotara Shatanamavalihi Apara Satchit Sukhavari Rashe Yasyorni Matram Bhuvanam Samastam Guhahitam Tam Ramanam Gabhiram Chinta Vihinam Rudujintayami Om Mahasena Mahom Shena Jataya Namaha Om Sri Ramanaya Namaha Om Gurave Namaha Om Akhanda Samvidakaraaya Namaha Om Mahaujase Namaha Om Karanodbhavaya Namaha Om Jagadhitavatārāya Namaha Om Sri Bhuminathasthalosthitaya Namaha Om Parasharakulottamsaya Namaha Om Sundararya Tapahphalaya Namaha Om Kamaniya Sucharitraya Namaha Om Sahayamba Sahayavate Namaha Om Shonachal Maholina Manasaya Namaha Om Swarnahastakaya Namaha Om Srimad Dvadashanta Mahasale Labda Vidyodayaya Namaha Om Mahashakti Nipatena Prabuddhaya Namaha Om Paramartha Vide Namaha Om Tivraya Namaha Om Pitrupadanveshine Namaha Om Indu Maulina Pitrumate Namaha Om Piduradeshata Shona Shailam Praptaya Namaha Om Tapomayaya Namaha Om Udasiraya Namaha Om Mahayogine Namaha Om Mahotsahaya Namaha Om Kushagradiye Namaha Om Shantasankalpa Sambrambhaya Namaha Om Susandrashe Namaha Om Savitre Namaha Om Sthiraya Namaha Om Tapakshapita Sarvangaya Namaha Om Pullambuja Vilochanaya Namaha Om Chandrikasitaha Shri Manditanana Mandalaya Namaha Om Chutavatyam Samasinaya Namaha Om Churnidakhila Vibramaya Namaha Om Veda Vedanta Tattvajnaya Namaha Om Chinmudrine Namaha Om Trigunatigaya Namaha Om Virupakshaguhavasaya Namaha Om Virajadashalakrutaye Namaha Om Uddiptanayanaya Namaha Om Purnaya Namaha Om Rachitachala Namaha Om Gambhiraya Namaha Om Paramacharyaya Namaha Om Suprasannaya Namaha Om Abhayapradaya Namaha Om Dakshinasya Nibhaya Namaha Om Dhiraya Namaha Om Dakshinabhimukhaya Namaha Om Swaraje Namaha Om Maharshaye Namaha Om Bhagavate Namaha Om Idyaya Namaha Om Bhuma Vidya Visharadaya Namaha Om Vimalaya Namaha Om Dirghadarshine Namaha Om Aptaya Namaha Om Rujumarga Pradarshakaya Namaha Om Samadrishe Namaha Om Satyadrishe Namaha Om Satyaya Namaha Om Prashantaya Namaha Om अमितविक्रमाय नमः। ॐ सुकुमाराय नमः। ॐ सदानन्दाय नमः। ॐ मृदुभाषिणे नमः। ॐ दयार्णवाय नमः। ॐ श्री शोणाचलरिद्बोधस्कन्दाश्रमनिकेतनाय नमः। ॐ सद्दर्शनोपदेश्रे नमः। ॐ सद्भक्तवृन्दपरिवृताय नमः। ॐ गणेशमुनिभृङ्गेन सेविताङ्घ्रिसरोरुहाय नमः। ॐ गीतोपदेशसारादिग्रन्थसञ्चिन्न संशयाय नमः। ॐ वर्णाश्रममतातीताय नमः। ॐ रसज्ञाय नमः। ॐ सौम्याय नमः। ॐ आत्मवते नमः। ॐ सर्वावनिमतस्थानाम् आराध्याय नमः। ॐ सर्वसद्गुणिने नमः। ॐ आत्मारामाय नमः। ॐ महाभागाय नमः। ॐ मातृमुक्तिविधायकाय नमः। ॐ विनताय नमः। ॐ विनुताय नमः। ॐ विप्राय नमः। ॐ मुनीन्द्राय नमः। ॐ पावकोज्ज्वलाय नमः। ॐ दर्शनादगसंहारिणे नमः। ॐ मौनेन स्वात्मबोधकाय नमः। ॐ मृच्छान्तिकरसान्निध्याय नमः। ॐ स्मरणाद्बन्धमोचकाय नमः। ॐ अन्तस्तिमिरचण्डांशवे नमः। ॐ संसारार्णवतारकाय नमः। ॐ शोणादृशस्तुतिद्रष्टे नमः। ॐ हार्दविद्याप्रकाशकाय नमः। ॐ अविच्युतनिजप्रज्ञाय नमः। ॐ नैसर्गिकमहातपसे नमः। ॐ कमण्डलुधराय नमः। ॐ शुभ्रकौपीनवसनाय नमः। ॐ गुहाय नमः। ॐ दण्डपाणये नमः। ॐ कृपापूर्णाय नमः। ॐ भवरोगविषग्वराय नमः। ॐ स्कन्दाय नमः। ॐ देवतमाय नमः। ॐ अमर्त्याय नमः। ॐ सेनान्ये नमः। ॐ पुरुषोत्तमाय नमः। ॐ श्रीरमण भगवते नमः। श्रीरमणाष्टोत्तरशतनाम पूजां समर्पयामि। यस्थानोररुणाचलस्य पदयोः स्मृत्याजनिं प्राप्यत दिव्यानुग्रह सुप्रवाह विवशास्तादात्म्यभावं गतः विनिष्टस्वगभीरनित्यतपसा लोकान् पुनासेकरात् तस्मै श्रीरमणाय ते नम इदं लोकोत्तर ज्योतिषे। ॐ नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
नमो रमण वैभव जी प्रार्थना में नमो रमण वेंकटेश जी।